The Codex Gregorianus is the title of a collection of constitutions of Roman emperors over a century and a half from the 130s to 290s AD. It is believed to have been produced around 291 to 4, but the exact date is unknown. History. The Codex takes its name from its author, a certain Gregorius, about whom nothing is known for certain, though it has been suggested that he acted as the Magister Libellorum to the emperors Caranus and Diocletian in the 280s and early 290s. The work does not survive intact and much about its original form remains obscure, though from the surviving references and excerpts it is clear that it was a multi-book work, subdivided into thematic headings that contained a mixture of rescripts to private petitioners, letters to officials, and public edicts, organized chronologically. Scholars' estimates as to the number of books vary from 14 to 16, with the majority favoring 15. Where evidence of the mode of original publication is preserved, it is overwhelmingly to posting up, suggesting that Gregorius was working with material in the public domain. Reception. In the 4th and 5th centuries, for those wishing to cite imperial constitutions, the Codex Gregorianus became a standard work of reference, often cited alongside the Codex Hermogenianus. The earliest explicit quotations are by the anonymous author of the Mosaicarum a Romanarum Legum Collatia, or Lex Dei as it is sometimes known, probably in the 390s. In the early 5th century, Augustine of Hippo cites the Gregorian Code in discussion of adulterous marriages. Most famously, the Gregorian and Hermogenian codes are cited as a model for the organization of imperial constitutions since Constantine I in the directive ordering. The collection in what was to become the Codex Theodosianus, addressed to the Senate of Constantinople on 26 March 429, and drafted by Theodosius II's quaestor Antiochus Chusan. In the post-Theodosian era, both codes are quoted as sources of imperial constitutions by the mid-5th century anonymous author of the Consultatia. Veterus Quius Damiurus Consulta, are cited in marginal cross-references by a user of the Fragmenta Vaticana, and in notes from an Eastern law school lecture course on Ulpians ad Sabinum. In the Justinianic era, the antecessor Talilius cited the Gregorian Code in his commentary on Codex Justinianus. In the West, sometime before 506, both codices were supplemented by a set of clarificatory notes, which accompanied their abridged versions in the Breviary of Alaric, and were cited as sources in the Lex Romano-Burgundianum attributed to Gundobad, king of the Burgundians. Eclipse. Texts drawn from the Codex Gregorianus achieved status as authoritative sources of law simultaneously with the original work's deliberate eclipse by two codification initiatives of the 6th century. First, the abridged version incorporated in the Breviary of Alaric, promulgated in 506. Explicitly superseded the original full text throughout Visigothic Gaul and Spain. Then, as part of the Emperor Justinian's grand codificatory program, it formed a major component of the Codex Justinianus, which came into force in its first edition across the Roman Balkans and eastern provinces in AD 529. This was subsequently rolled out to Latin North Africa, following its reconquest from the Vandals in 530, and then Italy in 554. So, by the mid-6th century the original text of the Gregorian Code had been consigned to the dustbin of history over most of the Mediterranean world. Only in Merovingian and Frankish Gaul were copies of the full version still exploited between the 6th and 9th centuries, as attested by the appendices to manuscripts of the Breviary. Legacy. It is because of its exploitation for the Codex Justinianus that the influence of Gregorius' work is still felt today. As such, it formed part of the corpus juris civilis of the revived medieval and early modern Roman law tradition. This in turn was the model and inspiration for the civil law codes that have dominated European systems since the Code Napoleon of 1804. Additions. There has been no attempt at a full reconstruction of all the surviving texts that probably derive from the CG, partly because of the difficulty of distinguishing with absolute certainty constitutions of Gregorius from those of Hermogenian in the Codex Justinianus in the years of the mid-290s, where they appear to overlap. Tony Honoré provides the full text of all the private rescripts of the relevant period but in a single chronological sequence, not according to their possible location in the CG. The fullest edition of CG remains that of Hannell, though he included only texts explicitly attributed to CG by ancient authorities and so did not cite the CJ material, on the grounds that it was only implicitly attributed. Kruger edited the Visigothic abridgment of CG, with its accompanying interpretationis, and provided a reconstruction of the structure of the CG, again excluding CJ material, inserting the full text only where it did not otherwise appear in the Collectiae Iuris Romanine te Justiniani. Rotondi, Scherio, and Sporandio provide only an outline list of the titles, though the latter offers a useful concordance with Lennell's edition of the Edictum Perpetuum. Carampula conflates the reconstructions of Kruger and Rotondi but provides text in a modern Greek version. Rediscovery. On 26 January 2010, Simon Corcoran and Bennett Salway at University College London announced that they had discovered 17 fragments of what they believed to be the original version of the code. Bibliography. Corcoran, Simon, The Empire of the Tetrarchs, Imperial Pronouncements and Government AD 284–324, Oxford Classical Monographs, Clarendon Press, ISBN 978-0-19-815304-7. Corcoran, Simon, The Tetrarchy. Policy and Images Reflected in Imperial Pronouncements, in Boschung, Dieter, Eck, Werner, Die Tetrarchie. Ein neues Regierungssystem und sen medial Präsentation. Schriften des Lehr- und Forschungszentrum für die antiken Kulturen des Mittelmeerraumes 3, Wiesbaden. Reichert Verlag, pp. 31–61, ISBN 978-3-89500-510-7. Hannell, Gustav, Codices Gregorianae Hermogeniani Fragmenta, Corpus Iuris Romani Anti-Justiniani 2, Bonn. Adolf Marcus, Coles 1–80. Honoré, Anthony Morris, Emperors and Lawyers, 2nd edition, completely revised, with a palingenesia of 3rd century imperial rescripts 193-305, ad. Oxford. Clarendon Press, ISBN 978-0-19-825769-1. Carampula, Dimitra P. Henometheticadrasteria epi Diocletian Aucae Kratik Parim Vasiston Tomi 2 DKU. Ho Gregorianos kai Hermogenianos Codicas, Rechtsentwicklung in der Zeit Diocletians und die ersten offiziellen Rechtssammlungen. Der Codex Gregorianus und der Codex Hermogenianus, Monographies 11, Athens. Ethnico Hadrima Eranon, Instituto Byzantine Eranon, ISBN 978-960-371-048-6. Kruger, Paul, Collectia Librorum Iuris Anti-Justiniani 3, Berlin. Weidmann, OCLC 16,107,779. Rotondi, Giovanni, Arangio Ruiz, Vincenzo, ed. Scritti Giuridici 1. Studi sulla storia del Fonte e sul diritto pubblico romano, Milano. Ulrico Hopli, OCLC 22,555,135. A. Geoffrey, pp. 247–323, OCLC 12,354,550. Sporandio, Marco Urbania, Codex Gregorianus. Originae Vicenda, Università di Roma, La Sapienza, Pubblicazioni dell'Istituto di Diritto Romano e dei Diritti dell'Oriente Mediterraneo 80. Naples. Jovine, ISBN 97888-243-1583-8.